Hello everyone, we welcome you to the webinar organized by MyCFO, a leading implementation services company which provides CFO and finance effectiveness services. As you are aware, our speaker for today is Mr. Deepak Narayanan, co-founder at MyCFO. Deepak is a qualified chartered accountant and leads strategy, business development, branding, public relations functions at MyCFO. Deepak has been at the forefront in popularizing the concept of CFO services in India and in the concept gaining widespread acceptance among CEO, promoters, investors, CFO, media amongst others. Deepak is a blogger and contributes articles on a regular basis to leading publications. He enjoys traveling, watching sports and meeting new people. Deepak has worked with Deloitte and EY in Bangalore and Mumbai. During his stint with these firms, he has consulted companies like Unilever, ITC, Sanifo Aventis, Western Union, Titan Industries, Schreiber Group, Solvay Pharma, amongst others. The topic of discussion today will be business lessons from Cricket World Cup 2015. Deepak believes the game of cricket has a lot of parallels to the world of business, and he shares 10 search takeaways that businesses can emulate. So what can businesses learn from Cricket World Cup 2015? Let's find out from Mr. Deepak Narayanan.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. A very warm welcome. In Mumbai, I think the temperature has been scorching. It touched 40 a few days back, but that hasn't kind of kept us away from all the action that we saw in the recently concluded Cricket World Cup. No doubt, it was disappointing to see India crash out of the semi-finals. But having said that, I think it was a performance worth remembering, because India won 7 out of its 8 games to get to the semi-finals, and let's accept it. I think they lost to an opposition which was far better than them on that particular day. As Arshil mentioned, the topic for today is what can businesses learn out of cricket in general and out of the World Cup in particular. What happened during this World Cup that captured our imagination and which can be used by business leaders across industries and across company sizes, and which can actually be used and implemented in the companies and organizations that they run. So I have compiled a list of 10 such takeaways, as I may call it, which can be emulated by CEOs in their companies to run and to improve the quality of the companies that they lead. So without much ado, let me get into the presentation. I think the first lesson that businesses should learn is to never underestimate the opposition. So we found that out with Bangladesh creating an upset in the form of England, with Ireland going on to upset West Indies. I think what it really shows is irrespective of who your competition is, irrespective of whom you're up against, it's never a good idea to underestimate the opposition. You will underestimate them only at your own peril. Even the largest companies and corporations in the world have figured this out over a period of time. So therefore, I think business leaders will be prudent enough to keep this in mind. So the first lesson for the day is don't underestimate the opposition. Respect the conditions. See, cricket is probably one game which teaches you that depending upon the country where you play, the pitch on which you play, the atmospheric conditions under which you play the game, I think it has got an impact on the way the game goes on. Similarly, I think companies need to respect the fact that they don't operate in isolation or in vacuum. So every company needs to face what is known as the marketplace, what is competition. They need to face their customers. They need to provide solutions which fit in with what the market and the customers really want. and which is all very similar to the pitch conditions, to the geography, to the breeze, to the wind direction. So many of these parallels that one may see in respect of cricket. So the second condition, the second takeaway is respect the conditions, respect the playing field, um, and never underestimate. The third lesson for entrepreneurs or for business leaders is to remember the fact that you've got to play to your strength. Whether you play on the bouncy tracks of Australia or whether you play on the spinning low and slow spinning tracks in India, what you've got to do is to pick a team which fits the conditions. So depending upon what you're up against, an entrepreneur or a business leader needs to recognize the context, the conditions, and accordingly play to their strength. Very important. The fourth condition: the captain need not be the best man. I think most Indian companies have this um, uh, have this wrong notion which says that if I am the entrepreneur, I've got to be the best man in the organization, which is far from the truth or reality. In effect, I think the business leader should be one who encourages and has better people surrounding him within the company. Because at the end of the day, let's face it, the business leader is not going to functionally be involved in each and every aspect of an organization. So it is best for him to stay involved and fill in the gaps wherever gaps exist within the organization, and to be able to lead the organization, to be able to get people to see a vision that most of them would not be able to see, and not get too bogged down or and not get too flustered with the fact that he has got to be the best man within the company. So it's absolutely important for the captain or the leader to recognize the fact that he may or may not be the best man within the organization. However, he should also recognize that irrespective of whether he's got the technical or the functional skills, he is the man to be able to lead the company. Use technology as an enabler and don't become a slave. I think the parallel to cricket is the fact that today, with the availability of technology and the penetration of technology in sport, it's easy now for opposition teams to analyze each and every deficiency in a player's technique, to the extent that you know exactly where to bowl to someone, you know exactly when somebody gets flustered, right? So it's become technology has become such a powerful tool that players now use it to spot opposition weakness and to be able to take advantage of that. Having said that, at the end of the day, the game is played on the pitch between 22 yards and between 22 players. No matter what technology you use and no matter what analysis you do, at the end of the day, you've got to take decisions on the field, on the ground. Cricket is probably one team game where the role of the captain or the leader is the most important. Coaches have a role, but it's just beyond the boundary line. So when players walk onto the field, it is the captain who takes pretty much all the decisions. So the point here that I'm trying to make is that technology can be a terrific enabler. It can help you to analyze what you ought to do, but don't become a slave of technology to the extent that it takes the gut feeling or decision making out of your characteristic. The experts are not always right. So again, fairly important. I think as an entrepreneur, there would be a lot of people who would come up to you and give you advice, and sometimes I think the advice tends to be pretty useful. I think you possibly take that advice and implement the advice in your company. But in a lot of cases, what the experts, what people who claim themselves to be expert who give this advice may not be always right. So again, just as a follow-on to the previous point, I think as an entrepreneur or as a business leader, you've got to rely a bit on your gut feel. You've got to rely on your instincts, and sometimes you may not always want to take the advice that is provided by people who are on the periphery, because that's what it is. At the end of the day, they are people who view your business at a 35,000 feet, and have got nothing to kind of lose. But it's you who's facing the music on a day in and day out, and it is you who's got to face your people. It's you who's got to face your customers. So at the end of the day, take the advice, filter it down, and take a call as to whether you need to implement all the advice that you get from the experts. Um, talent will only take you that far, but it is not an indicator of success at all. I think a classic case is the man in picture, Rohit Sharma. I think he's been touted as one of the most talented young batsmen in the world today. But look at his performance. I think he disappoints more than excites cricket lovers and cricket watchers. I think the problem is, I think he knows he's talented, the world knows he's talented, but I don't think he's got the temperament to be able to maximize the talent that he's got. So business and business leaders also have got to remember this. You may be a superstar amongst a group of CEOs, but at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. I think on the long run, if you look at a player's career as compared to the career of a CEO, if over a 10, 15, 20, 30-year period, if you have not managed to kind of surpass your competitors, if you have not managed to achieve things that others have been able to do, having all the talent in the world is of no use or is of no consequence. Getting up every time you fall. I think I correlate this to the ball that hit Brendan McCullum. This was a match against Australia, the first league match which New Zealand won. It was a close contest and New Zealand won this. Brendan McCullum had just started his innings and he got hit by a real fast delivery from Mitchell Johnson, which hit him on the forearm, and TV cameras showed the extent of swelling on his forearm. That didn't deter Brendan McCullum at all. What he did was to instead start attacking the Aussie bowling, and he went on to score a 22 ball 50 in that match. Again, a great lesson for business leaders, which is to say that you're going to get hit. The odd ball is going to hit you in business. I don't think there is anyone, just like in the case of cricket, where there is probably no batsman who has ever not got hit by a fast bowler on any part of his body. There is hardly any business leader who wouldn't have got hit in the corporate field or in corporate life. So it's important, while you may get hit, what is important is for you to rise up and to rise probably a lot more higher every time you get hit. This personally is the best takeaway for me. Play for the paying spectators and then play for yourself. What does it mean? I think business exists for customers. If you're not able to work for your customers, if you're not able to deliver solutions for your customer, then you don't deserve to be in business. Very similar to cricket. At the end of the day, you can go after individual records, personal glory, but if you do not satisfy if you're not able to play to the gallery, if you're not able to play to the satisfaction of the crowd who come to watch you, and if you're not able to entertain the crowd, I think you would be doing gross injustice, not just to you, but to people who really pay you. In the business context, the people who pay us are really our customers. So whatever you try and do, whatever you try and create, do it for your customer. Keep the customer at the center of your universe. Finally, champion teams are created through discipline and sacrifice. I think one striking quality say in Australia, have you guys wondered why Australia is one of the has been such a consistent side over the years? It's because of their sheer discipline, their ability to work extremely hard, and most importantly, to be able to execute what they plan. They put their bodies on line when it comes to winning big moments in a game, and when it comes to winning the big tournaments. It's another matter that they've had a group of a great bunch of players over the years who have led the country with great passion and dedication. But at the same time, all this wouldn't have been possible if a robust system had not been created in Australian cricket, and for the players to be able to give utmost commitment, discipline, and be committed to the cause of cricket. I think this is what has separated Australia from the rest of the team. So in order to create champion teams, in order to create champion businesses, I think what's really important is I think you can have the talent, you can have the intellect, you can have the best people around, but if you don't have the best execution firepower, if you don't have the discipline to be able to follow through some of the actions you planned, I think you will not be able to create champion teams. With this, I would like to end my webinar here. It was short. It was intended to be short. I'm hoping that I would be able to get some questions from you, and would be happy to take these questions and answer them. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Deepak, for your presentation. We have a couple of questions. The first question is, if you were to name 3 key business learnings from Team India, what would they be?
I think in this World Cup, the first key learning for me was the consistency with which they played. I think coming back from a series of defeats against Australia in the Test and in the One Day series, I think India was really written off. I think they bounced back. They played consistently well, and in fact they won 7 games on the trot. So consistency, I think, would be the first takeaway for me. The second takeaway would be the fact that they played like a team. So if you look at the individual batting as well as the bowling performances for India, especially the batting, because India is typically known for its batting. There was only one who was in the top 5 rankings for batsmen in the World Cup, which was Shikhar Dhawan. So that goes a lot to show about how the team played as a team, and there weren't players who got very high scores and ended up being in the top 1 or 2 batsmen's list, but the team not doing well. So I think that was another takeaway for me. And thirdly, I think the attitude and the commitment of the team on the field. I think to see them really field so well, which again from a business standpoint is to say that look, they didn't give the opposition so they didn't give the opposition a very easy run in terms of being able to steal those singles, to be able to breathe when a partnership was going on. So they were on their toes at all given points in time. I think that those were the 3 takeaways that I would that businesses should take away from the Indian team performance.
Sure, thank you for that answer. The second question is, when it is absolutely crucial, is it fair to rely on only a few employees to perform?
I think typically what tends to happen with most organizations is the 80-20 rule. So, typically, I think 20% of the people carry 80% of the weight in any company, and this may not be the general. This may not be the case in your organization, but overall, I think that's what tends to kind of happen. This doesn't mean that the remaining 80% don't work. It just means that the impact that the 20% create is equivalent to 80% of the impact that the organization creates. So I think relying on too few people is not the greatest thing. I think that's where the distinction between an organization and an organism comes. An organization effectively is a set of rules that people follow, whereas an organism is a set of people who follow rules. So the more people oriented your company is, it's called as, it would be an organism. And the more rule oriented the company is, it would be an organization. So in my view, all businesses should strive to become organisms rather than organizations.
Sure. This is so coming to our last question for the day. It is, how does one identify the winning combination? In this case, key employees in order to form a successful team at work.
I think for me there are only two qualities that you need to look at if you have to create a winning combination. One, I think, is the attitude of the team member. I would rank this even above the functional and technical skills that people bring on board. I think if you don't have the attitude, the determination and the will to be able to, if you don't have those qualities, I think there's no starting point. And second, the commitment to the cause. I think that's where the distinction between an employee and somebody who is an employee but with an ownership mindset comes in. I think an employee would typically look at it as a job where he comes in, performs it, earns a salary and goes away. But somebody who is committed to the cause, somebody who is committed to the organization's goal, its vision, and who's willing to stick his or her neck out and willing to work hard. I think those are people whom you would call as, whom you would co-opt as part of your winning team. I think these two qualities is what would define the winning team and would separate them from the rest.
Sure. So with that, we come to an end to this webinar. In case if you have more questions, do write into us. They will be responded to you over email. Thank you, Mr. Deepak Narayanan, for this insightful session, and thank you all for joining us.
Thank you all. Bye.